I am Leonardo da Vinci, written by Brad Meltzer, illustrated by Christopher Eliopoulos. I am Leonardo da Vinci. I am Leonardo da Vinci. I was born in Italy in a small town called Vinci. People think Da Vinci is my last name, but it's just where I'm from. In Italian, Da Vinci means from Vinci. What are you looking at, Leonardo? Everything. Look at that building. Look at these carvings. Look at these silks. Look at these paintings. Back in the 1400s, Italy was one of the most exciting places to live. Something called the Renaissance was happening, and people started using art, science, architecture, and even politics to see things in brand new ways. As a young boy, I went hiking one day and found this amazing cave. I wanted to know what was inside. Whoa! At first, I tried peeking in, but the cave was too dark. I bent the other way, but still couldn't see anything. The closer I looked, the darker it seemed, like the shadows themselves would swallow me whole. Right there, I felt two things: fear and desire, because I really wanted to know what was in there. Standing at that cave, I made my decision. If you want to learn something new, you have to follow your curiosity. The rewards are unimaginable. Whoa! I found a whale fossil embedded in the wall. To see a mighty creature like that, I realized just how powerful nature can be. Back then, the richest kids with proper background went to the best schools. I didn't. At this abacus school, I learned some math, but mostly I was self-taught. By teaching myself, I was more open to new experiences and ideas. As a result, I didn't think like everyone else. I didn't even write like everyone else. I was left-handed, which back then was considered weird and odd. Instead of writing left to right, I wrote right to left, drawing each letter backward like this. I used a mirror to read it. It may seem like a secret code, but it wasn't. It was just a way to keep the ink from smudging, a common practice back then. I wasn't the best student. I'd get easily distracted and bored unless I was doing something creative, like art. Whoa, you drew that? I did. You're pretty good. I still have a lot to learn. When I was 14, my father showed some of my drawings to one of the best local artists, Andrea del Verrocchio. Your son drew that? He did. Pretty good, huh? I'm astonished. I became his apprentice, which is a fancy way of saying he became my teacher. He taught me how to mix paints, draw and sculpt from models, and work with machinery on large projects. Most important, in Verrocchio's workshop, there were people talking about anatomy, geometry, architecture, and antiquities. Plus, there were books on every subject. You can put a circle inside a square like this. My first preserved art was a shield I painted for someone. I'll put on a monster, like a dragon that breathes fire and spits poison. To make it realistic, I used more than paint. I took real body parts from lizards, snakes, bats, crickets, grasshoppers, and even butterflies, and attached them piece by piece. Looks real, right? Blur. The smell was so bad, my father kept the shield and bought a new one for the client. What's that smell? Art. It wasn't my best work, but the shield did sell and was eventually owned by the Duke of Milan. You don't become an artist overnight. It takes practice and patience, drawing things over and over. Again, draw it again. In my art, I wanted things to look like they did in real life, so I'd practice drawing drapes with plenty of folds and shadows. The key was mastering this, chiaroscuro, which means light-dark in Italian, and explains how I used light and shadows to make things look real, and sfumato, which means making the lines blurry so it looks even more realistic. If you do it right, you get this. Ta-da! That's my real drawing. So the illustrator, Christopher Eliopoulos, this is Leonardo da Vinci's actual drawing. He put a picture of it there. Was I perfect? Not at all. I'd get so distracted and sometimes felt so alone that I didn't finish many of my paintings. And when I did finish, I didn't think the work was very good. Another bad one. You really think that's bad? And here you can see the illustrator put another one of Leonardo's paintings for you guys to see. No matter what I was working on, I'd carefully examine each subject, studying every detail. I was especially interested in birds. Look how a bird's wings are more curved at the front. Is that how they fly? What do their tails do? Is that how they steer? He really looks closely at things, doesn't he? My greatest strengths were curiosity and observation. Everything I saw, I put in my notebooks. Look at that dragonfly. When it flies, its front wings are higher and its rear wings are lower. He really wants to learn about flying, doesn't he? I wanted to learn about everything. Each day was an opportunity to observe something new. I'd fill notebooks with drawings, ideas, art, and anything else I found interesting, including long lists of things I wanted to do. So if you look at his list, it says, learn how to walk on ice, learn how math can put a square inside a triangle, learn how to repair a lock, get a measurement of the sun from the Frenchman I met. Why is the sky blue? Why are fish in the water faster than a bird in the sky? Why do our eyes only see in a straight line? How do clouds form? What's yawning? What is yawning? How did I find the answers? By observing every detail. At the top of Monte Rosa, I figured out why the sky is blue. It's the light reflecting off the particles in the water. Observe a goose's foot. Describe the jaw of a crocodile. Describe the tongue of a woodpecker. The more questions you ask, the more answers you'll find. Over time, in addition to being an artist, I became an architect. This was a real bridge I designed. An engineer. Accurate and precise maps. Who wants to take a trip? We've got these things called roads. He invented this crank as well to move stuff. And a musician. I designed a new instrument, a cross between an organ and a violin, the viola organista, which is a really funny thing to say. And here you can see the actual drawings from Leonardo's sketchbooks. And a scientist. To understand our bodies, I studied bones and organs, making detailed drawings. By looking at how water flows on the sides of a river, I figured out how the heart works and how it pumps. Did you know the heart is a muscle? And a dentist. By studying teeth, I was a pioneer of dentistry. Say ah. Wait, did I mention I was a scientist? Look at this human arm. When it bends just right, it resembles a bird's wing. Isn't that beautiful? And here you can see more of his sketches from his notebooks. And of course, I was also an inventor. Every new piece of information led to new breakthroughs. Check out my designs. The tank. The submarine. Scuba gear. A hang glider. An early try at a helicopter. This tent covered with cloth is an early parachute, even though no one had ever flown one before. And speaking of flying, check out these wings based on bats. Whoa! What are you doing now? Trying to figure out how the face works. Which muscles open your eyes? Which ones raise your brows? And which ones create the perfect smile? This is my most famous painting, the Mona Lisa. I worked on it for 16 years. Carrying it with me until the day I died. For over a decade, I'd repaint it, trying to fill it with every amazing new thing I learned about humans and nature. He used sfumato to blur the edges of her mouth. It's what makes her smile change depending on how you look at it. Today, people wonder who she was. She wasn't anyone famous. She was just like the rest of us. Ordinary and amazing, full of mysteries and questions, just like the world around us. In my life, people called me a genius, a Renaissance man. They also said I was weird and odd, and that's not a bad thing. Nothing amazing happens by thinking like everyone else. Look closely at nature. No two trees are the same. No two humans are either. That means no one will see the world as you do. That's not weird or odd. It's beautiful. Do what hasn't been done before. Build what hasn't been built before. When you do, no one will be able to look away. Today, there are 7,200 pages of Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks, filled with ideas about art, flight, geology, botany, anatomy, biology, and mechanics. Back in 1994, Bill Gates bought one of the notebooks for $30 million. Throughout his life, Leonardo was obsessed with flight. He loved birds so much, he'd buy them immediately and set them free. The very last thing Leonardo wrote in his notebook was a math problem. He left it unfinished and wrote, etc., because the soup is getting cold. Some of his ideas didn't become realities for another 500 years. His theories on the human heart were finally proven right in the 1960s. And his wings, they inspired Bill Finger and Bob Kane's design for Batman. It's true, without Leonardo da Vinci, there would be no Batman. I'd loved many things. Whatever your passions are, follow them. And here you can see these two men have a picture of Leonardo's famous Vitruvian Man. And I thought this was interesting. The illustrator, he has the Ninja Turtles on here because one of the Ninja Turtles' names is Leonardo, named after Leonardo da Vinci. But I'm pretty sure he is the blue Ninja Turtle, and the red Ninja Turtle is Raphael. So I thought that was interesting. Sometimes crazy ideas are the best ideas, even the ones that fail. My wings didn't help me fly. My scuba gear didn't let me breathe underwater. My pre-helicopter never took off. But over time, as technology and innovation caught up with my ideas, every single one of them worked. Stay curious, ask questions, look closely, and always be daring. I am Leonardo da Vinci, and I know that new ideas are beautiful. And here you can see it's got the little subscript right here. It says Leonardo da Vinci, The Last Supper, 1495. And what's interesting is this is actual size compared to the people. The Last Supper is painted on the side of a wall. It is very big. And if you look here, you can see this is actually a doorway that was cut into the painting, which is so painful to hear. Why this doorway was put here and it was cut into this work of art was because Napoleon, the French emperor, when he seized the city of Milan, where this painting is, he used this building where the Last Supper is painted as a stable for his horses. And he cut this doorway into the painting, which was so difficult to hear. And the tour guide who told us that, he had such a pained look on his face. Wisdom is the sustenance and truly dependable wealth of the mind. Leonardo da Vinci. And here you can see a timeline of his life. Here's the city of Vinci, Italy. Here you can see tourists photographing the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. So the Mona Lisa is no longer in Vinci. It is actually in the Louvre in Paris, France. And it is the most heavily visited and photographed painting in the world. And then, of course, a self-portrait in chalk of Leonardo at age 50.